It's time. We're back. It's time for Inside Security. We're back with another episode, and we're once again talking about what it's like to work in a security operations center, or SOC as we'll call it going forward tonight. And with me tonight are two of my colleagues at TrueSec, but before we introduce them, I'll actually introduce myself again because I haven't done that in about 10 episodes, so I should probably do that. My name is Mikael Almstedt. I work at TrueSec as a SOC Level 3 analyst and threat hunter. I've done that for almost a year now. It's coming up to a year. And thanks to Mikael Takeo and Darudi. Thanks for the subs, guys. 3 months. That's a good streak. So, right, that's me being introduced. Let's introduce our two guests tonight. So, let's start with you, Ulrika. Would you please introduce yourself to the viewers and listeners? Welcome.
Thank you. So my name is Ulrika, or Eureka for all the non-native Swedish people out there. And I work as a level 1 SOC analyst at TrueSec. Um, and I've only been working like in the cybersecurity like business, what do you call it, for about 3.5 months. Before that, I was a software tester. So I kind of come from like the developing side of IT, but not like the cybersecurity side.
That's awesome. I think it's great to have you as a guest because you haven't worked for that long. So it's I think people are really interested in like what it's like to start working here. And then we also have Mr. Samuel. Welcome, man.
Thank you, thank you. So my name is Samuel. I'm a technical account manager at TrueSec Detect. I've been working as a technical account manager for I think 3 months or something like that. And before that, I was a level 1 SOC operator like Ulrika for a bit over a year, I think. And before working at TrueSec, I worked as a pre-sales technician at Panda Security for I think 2 years, almost 2 years, a bit less maybe. And before that, I was studying IT security for 2 years. So I've been in IT. If you count the education, I've been in IT for like 3-4 years or something like that. Yeah,
That's awesome. And now you're my awesome colleagues at TrueSec, which is really cool. I want to
absolutely.
give some shout outs to chat as well, to the Rudy, Mikael Takeo, Ricky B, the ones that are always in the chat every episode. That's awesome. And Tracello, welcome, man.
Now we just need some bots in here so we can get some real explosion of your account, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's too few bots in here. I'm not getting harassed enough. I don't know where they are.
We're not saying to bot, but if you want to bot, no,
Exactly,
no,
exactly.
no botting in this channel.
All right, so all of us work in the SOC, and you're Samuel. You're sort of outside the daily, the 24/7 SOC at least. So
Yeah, yeah. I've been working at home since since I took my new role as a technical account manager. So I do most of my work from home nowadays.
how's that? Is there any difference from at the office? Would you like it?
It's the big plus side is not having to commute. Like I mean, I'm pretty close to work. I'm like 40 minutes from door to door right now, but it's really nice to cut down on the commuting. And I can also work in my what's it called in English, the soft pants, mjukisbyxor,
Your track pants or something?
if I want to. Yeah, so that's nice. But
That's
it sucks not getting to meet your colleagues every day. So that's the minus column, so to speak.
Yeah, and you, Ulrika, you're in the office like, doing your regular shifts, right? Because we have to do it. We have to do the monitoring at a specified location, and we can't really move out of it. So you have to go
Right.
into work.
Yeah.
But you have a long commute, right?
Yeah, I do. It's about like 1.5 hours, or like during the night shifts, it's normally like 2.5 hours to work, and then the same time to go like to get home. So
No, so it's 2.5 hour like
yeah,
one way trip.
yeah,
That's crazy to me. I would never do that. I would move.
Yeah, well, I want to move, but like I've only been here for like 3.5 months, so I need like a steady job first.
I would live in a tent.
Yeah, that's way too long to commute for me as well. I'm with you. Uh,
Well, I mean, I love cruising, so I mean,
Oh, there you go.
yeah. I
Perfect.
mean, I have awesome colleagues. I love my job, so I'm like, I mean, it's worth it.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just listen to podcasts all the time, so
Yeah.
that's nice.
So what? Right. So I mean, obviously, it has to be an interesting job for you to commute that long to work. So
Mhm.
what is it like working in a SOC? Because I mean, as we said, you've only been there for 2.5 months. So was it like how was it in the beginning? Was it sort of overwhelming, or did you get a grasp of it like quickly, or like,
Uh,
what was your initial sort of reactions?
well, I think I'm kind of fortunate because I'm a very quick learner, so um, I mean, I learned pretty quickly. So I think it took me about 3 weeks before I was actually going on the regular shifts and not just like the introduction part of it. Um, but I also went into like all of this with a very like humble attitude. So I actually think because Samuel was my teacher for like the first few weeks, and
She
I
was a
actually,
very good student. I want to add that.
aw, that's sweet. But I actually told him, like, just so you know, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have not worked with this before. I'm going to ask you stupid questions, so just bear with me, please.
Yeah.
And like everybody was very, very nice, and they were very like understanding. So I think, like, first of all, I have great colleagues, and I also have a great workplace that actually tells you to like ask the stupid questions because if nobody asks them, then nobody's gonna get the answers to them.
Yeah,
So
I love that. I mean, because
yeah.
I think that if you have a stupid, or I'm doing air quotes for the pod here, I'm doing air quotes. If you have a stupid question, I mean, there's a really really high chance that someone else is having the same stupid question, or maybe even more. But people
Yeah.
might not, might be sort of scared to ask those stupid questions.
Mm.
And I've been working in IT for like 21 years, and with this security for a couple of years. I still don't know what I'm doing. Like I ask so many questions, I Google stuff, and I read up on everything. Like it's too much to know. You can't really know everything. It's impossible for
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
So yeah,
IT has a really high amount of imposter syndrome people,
Yeah.
because there's so much to. If people don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's like this feeling that you're not really qualified for the stuff you're doing. Um, and that's like one of the reasons it's IT is so complex. So even if you like dedicate your life to doing one particular part of IT, you're still probably not going to be uh, knowing everything in that little part of IT. So like imposter syndrome is huge in IT.
Yeah.
yeah,
And Google is your friend.
Yeah.
yeah. I think I mentioned that on some previous episode, but like if you think if someone thinks that I know a lot of things, like you should see my Google history. Like every answer that I've given you, like I've Googled that and I've read up on it and I've learned that, and then then I can say it. I can talk about it and I can sort of explain it to someone else perhaps.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It,
it's a real thing, imposter syndrome. Yeah,
Mm.
it's like the whole meme about people going to every programmer just going to Stack Overflow and copying the code.
yeah. If I was programmer, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
Darudi in chat says he doesn't want to see my Google history. Not that history. We're
he
talking my
he
work
he has
laptop.
a special laptop for that.
Exactly. my we're talking my work laptop, Darudi. That's safe. That's safe for work. It's okay. Uh, it's just a lot of malware searches basically. Um, so I was going to talk about analysis laptop. Yeah, sure,
Deep analysis. Yeah.
exactly. So speaking of sort of googling everything and like reading up on stuff, what what sort of external resources are you often using on a daily basis? And I'm talking like VirusTotal, for example. Like, do you have any other external website that you use?
you want to
So
start, Ulrika, or should I?
yeah, I can start.
Yep.
Well, I use like abuse IPDB a lot to see if an IP address is malicious or not. And I also use another site that's called like geolocation API or something. So then you can see if an API or like if an IP address is like a proxy or something. So you can see if somebody's using a VPN like to do something. Um, so I guess those, and then Google. It's a lot of Googling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I use kind of the same, like VirusTotal, Abuse IPDB, like different kinds of whois lookups. Uh, VirusTotal is pretty good for that too, for domains. URL scan I use a bit. Also, like the sandboxes are really good for like visiting malicious sites and phishing sites and stuff like that. Also, something that's really nice is that we've started using Recorded Future at work, and Recorded Future actually has a really cool plugin that basically whenever it finds a domain or an IP address or something on the site you're actually visiting, it's going to show up in the plugin, and it's going to give you the Recorded Future summary of that IP or that domain. So if you can get your hands on that plugin, it's actually really nifty. So that's pretty good. And then of course we have Frederick's browser plugin for Fralsex for like decoding base64 and stuff like that. It's also really nice.
Yeah, exactly, and that's something good that you brought up there. The diff Because it's quite easy to not too easy, but if you don't think about it, you might make the mistake of sort of if you look at a customer, which is most likely sensitive data, and then something in some alarm is base64, and you want to decode that, and then if you just Google base64 decoding and you paste your company sensitive base64 code in that external website, chances are quite high, I would say, that they actually save everything that's being encoded or decoded at a specific website. So yeah, don't take company specific things and just put them online.
No. Like in 99.9% of the cases, it's going to be fine because it's not related to the company specifically, but it's like that 0.1% of the cases it's going to be bad. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to avoid.
Ricky B in chat says, I started using CyberChef for that purpose.
Hmm.
And yeah, I agree. I love CyberChef. And the fact that you don't have to use it online, which obviously Ricky B isn't doing. I think he's using it locally. So you don't have
Yeah.
to paste it in on the internet. You can do it locally on your machine, which is of course fine. So yeah, yes, he says, yeah. CyberChef, huge
It's really
shout out to
nice.
CyberChef. I love that.
Super. There's so many tools that you don't use that you find your tools that you use and you kind of like stick to that, and you never really explore all the other things out there. Um, it's also specific for like there's so many like OSINT tools and stuff like that you should really look into, but you need to have the time to.
Yeah, because I was gonna add some resource that I use that which might, because usually on as a level one you might be short on time, so you have to do stuff quite fast.
Mm.
As a level three, I get a lot more time with each alarm, so I can dig a bit deeper. And then I use any run where I can it simulates like a Windows machine, for example,
Yeah.
and then you give it an executable or a binary of some sort, and then it opens it, and then you can just see everything that happens, and it saves every event that happens, and every netcon, every process, everything, and then you get
Yeah.
a really nice report. So any run, I
and and sometimes you can actually just Google the binary and someone would have already done it in any run, and you can find the any run result without even like uploading the binary or something like that.
yep, or just Google the hash of it, which is also quite nice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then I also use Shodan quite a lot, which I like.
Mm.
Because Shodan as VirusTotal has some other info about the IP address, which is quite nice. And then of course you can see the services that is being used. Yeah, so I used AnyRun today as of late. I found a quite interesting rat which we had to dig deep in. So that was I used AnyRun, saw everything, every process, every register edit that was being made and everything. So it's really nice. I love AnyRun. And you can do a lot with it with the free version. You don't have to have a paid version.
Yeah, that's the huge thing, right? Because a lot of the really nice tools you have to actually pay for. So even if you get it paid, like if you want any tool to use, I mean, in most of the cases we're gonna get it, but you have to go through the whole process of getting it paid and everything, and it's kind of like it's a bummer, you know. But I mean, Shodan is pretty cheap, right?
Yeah, I think they have their drives. They're like every like it's a Black Friday or something, then they're like 80% off or something, and then it's quite cheap.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I bought it for like $5 for a lifetime subscription.
That's pretty crazy, yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a Black Friday deal a couple of years ago. Yeah, I've used it. I've used it since.
So have you found any like secret military installations here in Sweden?
I found a water plant, like a water
Yeah,
power plant in Sweden, which had a VNC open straight into to a control center. So
nice.
you could actually manage and edit and change all the flows and everything. And I tried to contact them. It was impossible to get in touch with them. And then I finally sent like a last email. I'm like, I'm reporting this to the police tomorrow if you haven't sort of done anything. And still no response. But the day after it was gone, so you couldn't really VNC to it anymore.
Yeah. I mean
Which yeah,
that feels like something that should be covered by MSB, right? Like a power plant or a water treatment facility. So that's pretty important stuff.
yeah. I don't think you should have power plants exposed to the internet, so you can just remote into it without the
Probably a
password.
bad idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I didn't means like remote all the way into it, but I mean, because that would be
That would be admitting to a crime
yeah.
live. It's
I
probably a bad
mean,
idea.
it would be possible to do it if you would want to. I'm just saying.
It's, I mean, it's kind of dangerous. I mean, Shodan is a service where you can just like literally, if you just actually use if you actually access something on Shodan, you're literally committing a crime. And I mean, a lot of the people, especially like younger kids, just like getting into hacking and IT security, maybe they're not really aware of the whole like the ramifications of actually entering something that they found on Shodan. I mean, maybe they just see, oh, it's got like admin password. I mean, what's the big deal? Like, but if they actually get found out, they would get charged. It's a
Yeah.
crime.
Yeah, I think that's what I assume that differs from country to country. So here in
Yeah.
Sweden, it depends on your intent, like why you're
Oh,
actually using that.
does it?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
there's been a couple of cases in the past like few years or so where you
That's
could
pretty crazy. I feel like if you actually like VNC'd into a company, even if it's got like standard credentials, it feels like it should be criminal in some way at least.
yeah I'd hope so at least. Right, so something I was gonna ask you was like before no let's see after you started and after you worked for a while, is there anything that you wish you would have known before you started working in the SOC? It could be like technically or soft skills or something else, but is there something you wished you would have done or knew before?
I mean, there's a lot of things that I've learned, um, like since I started, but like just knowing what a normal like process tree looks like. So you know, like, okay, this process spawns this process. Is this normal? Is this legitimate? Just knowing that would have been very helpful because I know that I kind of harassed Samuel in the beginning. I was like, okay, this thing does this. Is this normal? Is this ransomware? Like, because I was still like in the mindset that everything is ransomware and everything is bad and everything is hackers. And Samuel just like he kind of sneaked like kind of took a peek at my screen and was like, no, it's chill. And I was like, what? How? What? And yeah.
but that's hard. And Ricky B in chat says that a Windows 10 vanilla installation already looks compromised.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
for
hard.
sure.
I think
Yeah.
that goes for virtually anything. Like if you don't know the baseline, if you don't know what's normal, then you can't really tell what's deviating. I mean, what's
Right.
abnormal, what's malicious.
Mm.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
So that's a really good like tips or advice for someone who wants to get into security. Just
Yeah.
look at normal. Look at your system. Like
Yeah.
export all
Yeah,
your like put your logs into a Splunk instance because that's all free, for example, and just look at it or like look at your processes and stuff.
for
Mm.
sure, for sure.
That's
And
a
I mean, that's I remember something similar at my former job, which was my first job in IT security, and I read a lot about like PowerShell obfuscation and stuff like that. And I wasn't really very not knowledgeable about PowerShell or how it worked and like OSs in general. And I was using like a kind of a log handling tool, and I was looking through stuff. I think I was preparing some sort of like demo or something, and this was like really early in my IT security career, so to speak. And I was finding like encoded PowerShell commands, and I'd never I'd never seen it before, so I just assumed, well, why is this here? Like this feels really bad. Why would anyone need to encode PowerShell commands? Uh, and then you realize after like looking at it, okay, so this happens all the time. There's so many different applications that encode their PowerShell commands. So that's like a good example of like finding something and then realizing, well, like there's going to be so many things you find in the beginning that looks bad that just really isn't. And there's so much stuff that is just happens on a computer that's just really weird. Like
yeah
people have weird like home built applications, and there's like fringe cases where like boot up like the boot up process looks really weird, and like real weird like file manipulations and stuff like that. And you find that like all the time. I mean, still, even after having like been an operator for a year, you can still look at something and go, what the fuck is happening here? Like this is insane. What is happening here? And then after looking at it for a while, you have to realize that um, that's also something that you realize after working in a SOC for a while, that in some cases you're just gonna have to be okay with just not completely understanding what's happening. Because when you start working in a SOC, you're like, you don't want to dismiss anything unless you're 100% sure that it's fine, and that's impossible. Like a lot of the stuff you're gonna find is like it's so complex and so anomalous in and of itself that you're just gonna be happy with like um, dismissing it on the basis of I can't find anything malicious. It seems like it's happening on several computers in the environment. Um it seems fine, you know. I
yeah
can't find anything malicious about this, and that's like that's a comfort zone thing, right? It takes like a couple of months to get to that point where you can just look at something and feel like I don't know what's happening here, but it looks fine. I can't find anything bad. Uh, I'm just gonna dismiss this, you know.
yeah I agree. It's because it's that's one sort of goes back to you can't really prove that something is safe.
No,
Like you can prove that something is malicious, but like the amount of work it would take to just like deem that something is safe, like that's a never ending work. So you have to draw the line somewhere.
yeah,
And like is it 10 hours per alarm? Is it an hour? Is it 2 minutes?
yeah,
Is it 10 seconds? I mean
30
that's
seconds.
yeah, I mean that depends on your where you work, right? But you have to draw the line somewhere where like this is enough. This is enough investigation. I have my conclusion. I might not understand exactly what's happening, but the end result doesn't look malicious. I like I struggled with that previously, just that I didn't have enough time to just understand everything. So I wanted to know what everything did. Like why is it doing this? And then another case came in, and another case. I'm
and
like,
that's a good impulse, right? I mean, that
Mm.
you should feel like that.
yeah, but you have to let that go because otherwise you're stuck with like one alarm for 2 weeks, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, now I get it. And then yeah, that's not really feasible.
Yeah. And just like knowing where to look, like, oh well, this binary does like a huge amount of like registry edits. Well, I mean,
Mm.
am I supposed to look through like 500 different registry manipulations? Like, no, I can't do that. Like, there's so much like superfluous information that you have to sift through, and knowing where to look, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it
what?
also helps like knowing a little bit about a lot. So knowing that, like maybe not knowing like all of the different viruses and exactly what they do and stuff like that, but knowing like ACAR, that it's a test file and it's not actually a virus, um, and just like learning like some of the IP addresses that are normally like okay, like the Microsoft IP addresses and stuff like that, but also like knowing a little bit about tech in general. So knowing a little bit about development, like what like IDEs, editors, compilers are used for what. Um, so like if you see like I don't know, like Atom, or if you see Node, or if you see like Eclipse or like JetBrains or stuff like that, and you understand what it is, because then it's a lot easier for you to know where to start looking. So you don't need to know exactly everything about Java, but just knowing that Java is a programming language, and then you can easily see, okay, well, Java is doing this. Is this normal? So then instead of you like taking 5 hours to research something, it will take you like 5 minutes to research something.
Yeah.
That's also a big tip. Like know a little about a lot. You don't need to be an expert. Just know where to start looking and where to start digging, and it will help you a lot.
Yeah, that was going to be my response to the question too. Like, uh, I had a bit of a head start when I started at TrueSec because I'd worked in IT security for a little bit at least before. So I felt like I got off on a pretty good start. But like, i- if I were to give any like tips to someone who's looking to go into SOC work, like as Ulrika said, just knowing a little bit about everything, like a little bit about networking, a little bit about like operating systems and how they work, a little bit about coding, maybe not necessarily knowing to code yourself, but like the basics and the gist of it, and like maybe something about like cloud architecture and cloud solutions, like Azure and stuff like that. Like just a little bit about everything really helps, and that's why I think like doing the program that I did, 2 years of IT security studying, is actually really good because you're not going to be a pro at anything. You're barely going to be a novice at anything, but you're going to have a little bit of groundwork done, and that's really valuable.
Yeah, I agree. Ulrika nods as well.
Yeah.
Perfect. No, I agree. And I think that it's I think all experience. I mean, at least if we're talking about, well, mostly if we're talking about IT in general, like all kinds of experience will benefit. Well, will be good for you as a SOC analyst.
Yeah.
Like if you work with networking or as a programmer or in a help desk or like just anything, like that will help you. Like
Mm.
if you've worked as a network engineer for some time, I mean, you know what's going on in network. You know what sort of applications people use, how they use it, why someone would use program X and not Y, etc. That's because people use a lot of different weird shit, honestly. So like,
So much weird shit.
yeah, like wow, come on. So, so what sort of weird stuff do you see in terms of attacks or alarms and stuff? Is it always the same thing, or is it?
Mm, I mean, it differs. We see a lot of like different PowerShell alerts. So stuff like encoded commands, um, malicious parameters, or like potentially malicious parameters, um, like invoke expression, uh, like commands and stuff like that. Um, we also see like a lot of coding. So when people are trying to compile stuff and they're trying to like go through like um, do like an execution policy bypass and stuff like that. Um, So I guess that's what we see like on a regular day-to-day basis, and also like people downloading things that they shouldn't download.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you see a lot of just like uh, standard malware and adware being automatically blocked by the antivirus. That's probably one of the most common, actually, true alerts, so to speak. That's not a false positive.
Yeah, and just people downloading stuff that should be legit, but it's bundled with something weird. And
yeah.
I'm looking at you, FileZilla.
Yeah, Jesus
Yes.
Christ. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm naming and shaming FileZilla here because that's bundled with crap.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus.
It's not a bundle of joy, it's a bundle of crap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's crap, and then FileZilla is sort of bundled in rather than the opposite.
Yeah.
And also so many people like downloading cracks for programs. Like,
Hmm.
can't you just go to your IT department and ask for this application? Do you have to like download some sketchy ass crack from the internet?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
Yeah. Or people like plugging in USB devices and then they have like some malware on that. So
Oh
that
yeah,
basically
we had
yeah,
we had the USB stick of doom a while back, where we had a company where they had offices in Asia, and somewhere in Asia they had a USB drive, a thumb drive, that was filled, like it was literally like 15 different malwares on it. I don't know what it was, like why they had like all these malwares on it. I mean, it can't be a coincidence. I mean, it can't be an accident. It has to be like an actual like toolkit or something. Uh, and I think during several months we found it like plugged into like 10, 15 different devices. And they were like running around. We can't find this USB drive. We've been looking everywhere. It's literally like circulating in the office or something. Uh, it was like a standing joke in the SOC that this fucking thumb drive is they're never gonna find it.
yeah. Just don't plug this in, please.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because of course, if they plug it into a computer that doesn't have like an EDR sensor on it, I mean, hopefully they have an antivirus. I mean, most of the malware seem to be probably something that would be found by the antivirus, even if they don't have an EDR. But still, I mean, some old like Windows 7 that doesn't have an antivirus on it is going to be shit out of luck very fast.
yeah.
yes.
There's also a really, I was gonna say nice, but I'll change the wording to interesting. There's really nice, interesting USB that you can buy. It's called USB Killer, or USB
Hmm.
Kill perhaps. So basically, what you do is you insert that USB stick into a computer, and it fries
Then
it.
you break it off, then no one can use the USB.
Yeah. No, it actually fries.
Any
And then
USB
it's
drive is
broken.
a
Yeah. Like you fry the motherboard. When you insert
yeah.
it, and then it's dead. Like that motherboard is gone.
That seems a bit outside IT policy for most companies, though.
Yeah. Just yeah, if you get a USB kill, don't insert it. And that's sort of the danger of inserting a USB stick that you found somewhere on the parking lot or something. I mean, of course, it could be malware because that's what we work with,
Yeah.
but it could also
Or
be
like a
one of
rubber
those.
duck.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a rubber duck. I haven't played with it in a while. It's really fun. It's really fun to prank people.
I just I was just thinking about like someone not being in the IT security like sector, just listening to this podcast, and Michael said, "I have this rubber duck. I love playing with it."
In the
What
bath.
is 12, sitting in his bathtub playing with his rubber ducky?
Yes.
Or maybe that's what I meant.
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
Um, I was gonna say, what's all right. So what's that's sort of in the terms of what sort of attacks and events we see. What's the most common thing that you can see in terms of user behavior? Like how are end users like behaving in a bad way? Is it just clicking, or is it just clicking phishing links or
I think
something else?
phishing links is like very, very common nowadays. Yeah. We could talk a little bit about the incident that happened because all three of us were involved in that incident that happened a few weeks ago, where we had a customer that one of their higher ups was targeted in a phishing campaign or a phishing attack, and we found suspicious logins to that user account, and then they changed the password on the account, and then like less than a week later, we found the exact same activity again. I think it was you, Ulrika, who found the activity. And then it got passed to me, and then I escalated it further because I was thinking, like, have they really changed the password on the account? Can it really be? Because the phishing link, the phishing site we found later was actually hosted on the exact same domain. It was just a different subdomain the two different times. So it was really weird for us to see this behavior twice in a week, having been told that they've actually changed the password on the account. But yeah, I mean, obviously stuff like that happens. People are just kind of sloppy sometimes. People click the same phishing mail. Well, not the same, but click a phishing mail from the same threat actor 2 times in a week, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, and I think that shows how easy it is for people to click on phishing links. Because I think people are way too curious. They have to click it. It might be something. Like, oh, this package, this parcel that's being sent from the DHL. Like, I haven't ordered anything in 8 weeks, but still, there might be a package for me. I'll just click this. And it also wants me to enter my credit card details because for shipping. That's okay. I'll do it.
Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It needs taxes or something. Like, yeah, I'll just pay this and we'll see.
Yeah, and like phishing mails, you hear this all the time that people are saying that phishing mails are so good nowadays. They're really accurate and they're really believable. I mean, yeah, in some cases, but I still feel like a lot of the phishing mails that we see are pretty dog shit still.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty bad.
Like a lot of spelling mistakes, and like if you read it, like grammatically, it doesn't make sense. So people just see a link and like, oh, I'm gonna click it. So
yeah.
So my theory on that is that most of those crappy phishing mails are crappy, or intended to be crappy. So because like what I'm thinking is, and this is just my own theory, I think that if it's an obvious phishing mail, and then you get someone to click a link, then they will probably
be gullible.
Yeah, exactly. If they're gullible enough to actually don't spot that phishing email, they're gullible enough to enter their credentials on the next page, or download that exe file that you need to actually view some PDF or something, obviously. So I think it might be to sort of, because they don't want an experienced person to go to that site. They want, maybe they are okay with people reporting it as a phishing mail, and then just to get the more gullible people. That's my theory.
Yeah, it's possible.
I think it's crappy by purpose. Most of them.
Because you can do really cool stuff. You can just put the phishing site on and host it on Asia or something, and it's going to look really, if you put some effort into it, it's going to look really believable. So, I mean, it's probably a mix of that and it just being like script kiddies who don't really know what they're doing still, like 15-year-olds who learned hacking a week ago,
Yeah, they got their first Kali Linux installed.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. So is there anything else that you see people doing? They download malware, of course, like there's a key
that's a common one.
Cracks and stuff.
Yeah, that's a common one.
Downloading games and stuff like that as well.
uTorrent is pretty common, yeah. Like downloading games via uTorrent or downloading anything via uTorrent.
Yeah, files and stuff. We see that a lot on like Fridays and like during the weekends that people download uTorrents in order to watch movies during the weekends.
Because a lot of people probably use their work computer as their home computer too, right? If they're not really like interested in IT, maybe they don't even have like a very good computer at home.
I'm getting love from chat here. Mikael Almstedt says that there's a purpose of the bad email, and I agree with Sensei Panda. I like that. I've been upgraded to Sensei. I like this.
Sensei title.
If I can give Takia some badge or something, I like this Sensei. That's perfect. I just change.
You're gonna need some. You're gonna need some cool emotes and stuff, right? When you get big enough to have like those kind of perks, right?
Yeah, Yeah, I'm thinking that's about 5 years from now, so there's no rush, I think.
Grand plans, grand
Grand
plans.
plans. Oh yeah, I actually missed a comment in chat from Tresello. He says, "Me right now, no clue," and I assume that was regarding the rubber ducky.
Yeah,
Um,
it's massive.
Sorry, I'll yeah, let's get that image out of your head, please. It's not what it looks sounded like.
It's a glorious
It's
image though,
hacking,
Michael in
damn
a
it.
bathtub.
Yeah, that's a horrific image to have in your head on a Wednesday night. Um, so I was gonna ask you, Samuel, because you've as we said, you've moved away from the level one SOC analyst position, and you're now technical account manager. So you get to
Mhm.
speak much more to customers.
Yeah,
So to hear, to hear the status of on the customer side. And
sure.
is there anything specific that most customers are asking that they want to know more about or just interested in?
So there's some things that we can actually find that's happened a few times. So one of the things is that when we have like monthly meetings, we oftentimes show statistics about how many alerts have been handled by our operators during the month, and those numbers can obviously be pretty large because if you don't work in IT security, if you don't work in an EDR tool with custom detections, you sometimes don't really realize how like the volume of alerts that are generated. So I remember, for example, we had a customer. They had 1 month. They had like around 1,000 alerts during 1 month, which it's very very average. I would say it obviously depends on the amount of computers in the environment. But then the next month they had like 100. So I took a look at why this was, because it's a pretty huge jump and a pretty huge decrease in volume when it comes to alerts. So basically, it was one particular detection rule that was generating like 800 of these alerts or 900 of these alerts or something like that. And we had recently tuned that detection to get rid of those alerts. And this is obviously very interesting to the customer because they can see like, well, 1,000 alerts last month and 100 alerts now. Like, what's happening here? And obviously, it sounds like a lot, but if you look at it from our perspective, I mean, 800 alerts, it's like, what is that, like between 2 and 3 alerts a day? And these alerts that were generated, they were very easy to dismiss. It was like you only had to look at it for a few seconds to dismiss it. So the reason we hadn't tuned it before was simply because no one in the SOC was raising any red flags about this detection on this customer, because it was such a couple of alerts a day. It's not really a blip on our radar. But from a customer's perspective, these huge like increases or decreases in alerts is very like spectacular to them. And they also, just in general, like being in the mindset of understanding that just the sheer volume of false positives that are being dismissed every day by the SOC. Because if you want to find everything, you need to cast a pretty wide net. I mean, DFE, for example, Defender for Endpoint is very, very, very capable without any kind of custom detections. But when we add the custom detections to it, we're going to get a lot of traffic, so to speak, alert-wise. And that's fine. I mean, we're going to tune it as best we can to reduce it, but a certain amount of false positives every day is perfectly fine, and it's to be expected. And that's for the customers that aren't really, for the people who aren't really like working with the stuff that we are working with, it can be kind of mind-boggling to hear in a meeting that, oh, you had 4,000 alerts last month, but it's fine, you only had one incident. And they're going to be like, what do you mean we had 4,000 alerts? That's insane.
Yeah.
How can we only have one incident? And you kind of have to explain this whole, like everything that I just said, that the whole point of having a SOC is that we can cast a wider net and we can look at stuff that you wouldn't have time to look at. And with our expertise, we can actually understand it, and we can oftentimes dismiss an alert after just a few seconds if you're working the SOC for a few months. So that kind of understanding about alert volume is something we've come across a few times. And also just in general, customers who have a very low volume of incidents. Like we have customers where we haven't had an incident for several months. So we usually don't get the question, where you kind of get the idea sometimes that they're like, well, why do we even have this service? Because we don't really see any effect from it. And there you kind of have to explain that, well, there's no incidents, but we're still doing a lot of work. We're looking at a lot of alerts every day. We're doing threat hunting. We have like information from other incidents that we're running through our customers. We have a threat intel service that's feeding us with IOCs that we can enter into our EDRs. And all of this value is kind of hard for a customer to understand if they haven't had it explained to them.
Well, I think that's one of the best things about having an outsourced SOC. I mean, there are obviously good things about having an internal SOC, but one of the best things is actually that if you have an outsourced SOC, you can cast a wider net, as you say, and you can just look at way more stuff.
Exactly.
That's a really, really good thing.
Yeah, and if there's a filtration that gives us like 400 or 500 false positives for one true positive, that's perfectly acceptable. I mean, we found something that we wouldn't have found otherwise. So that's something that you really just have to understand.
I agree.
To a certain degree, I mean, we have had situations where we've had to really tune down pretty hard because, I mean, it comes to a point, especially in certain EDRs, where it's just like there's so much noise that you can't handle it. So, I mean, it's a fine line to walk, of course.
Yeah. All right, so I mean, it's natural that when we speak about things that we are passionate about and that we work with, it's only positive. But there's nothing out there that's just great at everything. So
except you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, the good thing about me are my puns. That's it. So what's the worst part? Because you have two different roles. So Ulrika, what's the worst part about working in a SOC as a level 1 analyst?
I think that like sometimes it can be kind of stressful, especially when you work during the day shifts, because then a lot of things are happening and you can't really like we talked about before, like you have an immense imposter syndrome and you can't actually look at an alert and feel safe closing it, but you're like, okay, I'm like 80% sure that this is fine, it's good enough, I need to move on. So then it can be kind of stressful. But otherwise, I kind of like it. But I'm also a very positive person, and
yes, you are.
So like that's kind of the only like downside I can see with this. Because I mean, you learn a lot, you see a lot of things, and if you have some more time on your hands, you can really like go down and go deep into an alert and see, okay, well, this is a new process. I haven't seen this before. What's this? And like, what does this thing do? And what does this lead to? And why does this happen? And then you can actually really like take your time and learn. And I really like that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's also good. It's also interesting how you actually manage to turn it around to something positive, even though I ask you for something bad. That's awesome.
Well, that's just me. I'm sorry.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Before we move on to Samuel, we got Linus SP in chat says, a good thing with an external SOC is that you see a lot of other companies' environments as well, and I think that's another like huge thing, that you get to see other environments. Like the bad thing is that you don't get to, if you're an internal SOC, you know your own environment and you can just ask people internally, which is great because I've done that as well.
And you're also not disconnected from the whole remediation process, which is also a big plus.
Exactly. But as Linus says, just the fact that we get to see so many different environments is it's great. We get to see, and because we manage more endpoints, we get to see more attacks and more bad stuff and more bad behavior, more bad methods and stuff. So I mean, we get to see a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree
And
with
we
him.
can learn, like, we can see an alert on one customer and then we can actually apply that knowledge to another customer and then we can find something that we maybe wouldn't have found unless we had that customer. So, I mean, that's also great that we can really, like Samuel said, we can actually cast a wider net because we have more data coming in, which is great.
Yeah, and just one of these examples is that one of our colleagues this week, he found well, there was a phishing email, and then the user had actually clicked a link, and I think might have entered something. I'm not sure, but then he took those IOCs, the domain name, if it was an IP address, I'm not sure, and then he ran that.
I think it was an IP address. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he ran that through all the other customers and found other customers that had been phished, but the phishing email has actually slipped through all the other safety nets. So then we can actually find and report that on that end, which is awesome. So that's one of the most positive things about seeing more environments. So we find something on customer A, and then we search for the same thing on all the other customers, which is
For
awesome.
sure. Yeah.
Mikael Tekeo in chat says, so as we sell the SOC service to customers and use them internally, we have the best of both worlds.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's
Yeah,
what we do, right?
It's just the other customers that's only gonna have 50% of the whole world.
So Samuel, you're a technical account manager. What sucks about
So
that?
I can actually add something to this,
Yeah,
a couple of things
please.
to the SOC operator part too, since I was that for a year. So one of the things that Ulrika touched on is the workload. So I just want to add to that it's really it can be really like fluctuating, the workload. You can have like several hours during the day when it's like super intense and you barely have time to like dedicate 15 minutes to an alert, which is like stressful in and of itself. And then you have to write an incident report and at the same time try and cover all the other customers and stuff like that. But on the flip side of that, you also have like night shifts, where you can have like literally like an entire night shift being like dead, like nothing happening. And I mean, in the beginning of the shift, you can actually use that time to do stuff to like further yourself. You can study stuff and do whatever you want to do. But it comes to a point during the night after you've done that for a few hours where it's just like you don't have the energy to do it, and then it can be kind of boring. So that's something you have to like keep in mind, that it can be pretty dead sometimes, and then suddenly it's like full blast for a couple of hours. So it's not the most balanced workload. And also just like working shifts in general can be kind of disruptive to your like sleep schedule. I know I've had sleep issues my entire life almost, and I know how just like drained of energy you can become fast if you're not sleeping. Fortunately, I didn't have any issues with shift work, but it's something you have to keep in mind, that you're probably not going to be as rested as you are if you have a like 8 to 5 job. You're just not. Even if you sleep 8 hours a night, just working shifts in and of itself, it's going to lead to you being more tired. It's just unavoidable.
Yeah, and I think
So
there's also research showing that if you work shift, you have a much higher risk of contracting certain diseases and stuff.
like bowel diseases and stuff like that.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
like
actually
heart problems.
it's actually bad for your health to work shifts
Yeah,
long term. I'm not saying 1, 2, 3 years perhaps, but like 20 years or something. It actually is bad for your health. So
yeah,
that is
for sure.
something to weigh in, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when it comes to working as a technical account manager, I would say, so the biggest challenge is probably like there's so many moving parts to a company that you're not really involved with when you're working as an operator. When you're working as an operator, you have these customers, you're going to handle these alerts, you're going to write an incident, and that's basically it. And if there's something you don't understand, you can pass it upwards to a level 2 or a level 3 operator. If there's a question from a customer that you can't answer, you pass it along to the person who can answer it. So taking a role like a technical account manager, you start to realize that it's just so much coordination to get everything to work the way it should work. And just like finding the right people to do the right things can be really, really hard. So that's a negative in and of itself, that a lot of your time just gets eaten up with like just coordinating stuff. And also just like the endless meetings. Like some weeks it's just literally meetings 8 hours a day. It's insane.
Yeah.
Especially seeing as I do the monthly reports and the quarterly reports. I mean, a couple of weeks every month, you just, it's really hard to find time to do anything except write reports and present them to the customers. So that's probably the biggest drawbacks. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, like the worst part about my job, I think, is the feeling that you're never enough. I mean, things are happening so fast in this business, and that you have to like stay on top of everything all the time. Like if I only work 8 hours a day, like that's not enough. I'm not gonna keep up with everything. So like I have to do more to actually keep up. And then it hasn't happened yet, but I have a feeling it might happen somewhere in the future. That there's just too much stuff coming out. There's just too many things. I'll be like, you know what? It's just too much. I don't really care anymore. I don't. It's too much.
Yeah, but that's why a lot of the technical people, because you're obviously a very technical person and you have a very technical role. I mean, that's why a lot of the people who are in your position, they transfer to like some kind of managerial position when they get older, because it just becomes too tiresome to stay on top of all the technical aspects. And that's a pretty normal curve for someone who works in tech.
Yeah, I think so as well. All right, so let me throw you off guard.
Oh.
Just change the subject
You
completely.
can fucking try, bro.
Well, Ulrika,
Yeah.
what are 3 things that you can't live without?
Just overall.
Yeah,
Oh man, that's really hard.
I know. Thank you.
Uh, um, I mean, I guess like food, sleep,
I was gonna say
like,
that.
but I mean, if we're not counting those things, I guess like I would not be able to live without music or like I guess like sound, like podcast or music. Um, Damn, that's so hard. Languages, because that's a very big thing for me.
Yeah, because
And I guess
you speak different languages, right?
yeah, 5.
Which ones?
Swedish, English, French, Japanese, Chinese, some Korean, and then I understand like Spanish, Italian, French, German, and like the Nordic languages.
Yeah, that's like 11.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I'm a language nerd.
That's really cool. That's good to know. That's a good skill to have when looking at alarms, because you get stuff from all over the place.
Yeah, I remember that we looked at an alert before, and it was like a company that had like an office in China, and we looked at something, and you
I remember
saw like
this.
a file in Mandarin, and you were like, "Oh, well, just so you know, like stuff can like be written in Mandarin, and it's totally fine. It doesn't mean that it's malicious." And I'm like, "Yeah, because I can read that." And you were like, "You can?"
Yeah, like this is an invoice, or this is a report, something. I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know that? It doesn't say that. It doesn't say that anywhere. Like, yeah, here,
Yes.
it's in Mandarin. I can read Mandarin. What? I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
Samuel, let's jump over to you. 3 things
Okay,
that you can't live without.
so Ulrika shamelessly stole my air, water, and food answer.
Yeah.
So no, but like honestly, like I can get a little bit philosophical on this. So I think like if you discount all the things that you need to actually like physically survive, I think I could probably live without like everything else. I think like we're so strong like our survival instincts are just so strong that even if I lived out the rest of my life in a little cottage in the woods without any social contact and like no running water or electricity, I could probably make it work. It wouldn't be fun, but I think humans are so good at like just getting accustomed to new situations. So it's kind of a hard question to answer, but if there's a few things I wouldn't want to live without, uh, I would say like probably just like I really love food. You wouldn't know it by looking at me because I'm really thin, but I really love going out and eating food and going to restaurants and like getting a really nice bottle of wine to the food and stuff like that. Like going out with my friends, that kind of stuff is really valuable to me, and it's one of the reasons why I probably would find it hard to live in a very small town. Uh, Probably. Also, like some kind of culture, like regardless if it's like literature or films or music or something like that. Something along those lines. I would need like if I can like as long as I have one of those three, you know. But if I had like no books and like no films and like no music, that would be really really boring.
Yeah.
uh, and obviously like some kind of social contact, like having at least a couple of close friends is, uh, I think you get really depressed really fast if you don't have at least a couple of close friends, I'd say. That's a boring answer, but
It's a good answer. I just wanted to catch you off guard with something unprepared just to see what you asked.
that wasn't on the
What you answered.
list.
That was on the list. I know. I've never said I'm a nice person. It's
That's when he adds
semi
it like
prepared.
now, so he can say, but it's on the list. You just didn't read it.
It is. It is on the agenda.
Mm.
All right. So sorry. Let's go back to what we spoke about before. Um, because as I mentioned, I think I think it's hard to stay up to date with everything. And I have my ways of doing that. So how do you how or do you stay up to date with what's going on in like the world of IT and security, or is it enough with just the work, or like do you listen to podcasts or books or something like? Ulrika, what about
Uh,
you?
I would not say that it's enough just to like work, because there's so much happening all the time. Um, so if you would just like you would work like 9 to 5 and then you would just shut off and not do anything IT related, that wouldn't work. You wouldn't be a very good SOC analyst, because this is gonna sound really cliche, but like IT security is not just a job, it's more of a lifestyle and a lifestyle choice. Um, so you really need to like stay up to date on things. You need to listen to podcasts, read books, and um, like all of that, just to actually know what's going on in the world. And also like talking to your colleagues and talking to other people, like maybe just look up somebody on LinkedIn and ask them if they want to like talk with you like 5 minutes each day, and like just ask them like, hey, did you hear about this new thing? And they can be like, yeah, did you hear about this new thing? But just like something to stay in the loop and stay up to date is great, because you will really need it, and it would really help you to know what to look for, um, because like sometimes I usually listen to a podcast called Stormcast. I think it's a SANS
Yes, it is.
podcast. It was Michael who who gave me the tip in the first place. And that's like 5 minutes each morning that I listen to on my way to work. Uh, and sometimes, like the guy there, he can say something, and then the same day I see that like alert in the SOC, and I can be like, oh, right, I've heard about this. I know about this, and then I know what to look for. So just like 5 minutes each day, just to stay up to date, it's really, really important to know to know what's happening.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Sans Stormcast.
Yeah.
It's I mean, as you say, it's like 5 minutes every day, and you get a really good 5 minute brief. What happened yesterday, basically.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that every day, like you're always in the loop. If someone
Yeah.
mentions something new, like, oh, did you hear about this? Yes, I did. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
everything about it, but I've heard about it.
Mm.
So it's yeah.
Yeah.
If that's not on your podcast list, you should add it. Everyone who's listening and watching it. Sans Stormcast.
Yeah. And it's also really easy, like, because we mentioned before, like knowing a little bit about everything or knowing a little about a lot. It's easy because then you hear something and then you can read up on it, and then maybe you find something else. Like, okay, well, Google is like, there's something called flock. Okay, what is flock? And then you read up on it, and then you're like, okay, it's kind of like a cookie thingy. Okay, good. Now, like, then you actually know kind of what it is. You don't know exactly how flock works, but you know that it exists and you know kind of what it does or what it's supposed to do. And then you can actually join in on conversations with other people, and then you can learn more, and then you stay more in the loop, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's awesome. And I think
Yeah.
it's also awesome, even if you're not working in security, if you do this and listen to this, and you do this for a long time, and then you interview for a role, and they ask you questions about like random stuff, and then you've heard about it. You have some grasp of literally everything they're gonna ask you. Like you're not a pro at it, but as you say, you've heard about it. You know what it is briefly. So
Yeah.
I like that.
But I also think that like it's important to know a little bit about just general technology, what's happening, um, and know about like say Apple, they're gonna release a new MacBook, or and it has like a new type of process or like a processor. What's it called?
Processor.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
Uh, and just knowing that, like what it is and what it does, and also now like a lot of people have hacked that, and there's like malware for it and stuff. But just knowing that when somebody mentions that like casually in a conversation, you don't need to know exactly what it is, but just knowing that it exists. Um, like knowing that Microsoft has like a kind of computer that is called Surface computers, um, because that's also like it will help you to know a little bit about what exists, like a little bit about what's going on in like technology in general.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, yeah, me too. Um, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said too. Like, Sandstormcast is great, and also like, I mean, I've had tons of different resources like I don't know, Krebs Security or Threat Post and stuff like that. Uh, but I also want like we were talking earlier about Recorded Future, and unfortunately, like Recorded Future licenses are really expensive. But uh, we have a few. Um, so Recorded Futures like landing page is actually really good when it comes to getting a quick summary. It was actually shout out to Adam who from TrueSec that tipped me off about that. Uh, their landing page is great. It really summarizes what's happened during the day, and I mean their focus is to kind of have like this broader picture of IT security. That is exactly what we're talking about right now. So that's actually really nice. Uh,
I think they have a newsletter as well. That's
yeah, but they don't
so
really go into much detail. But they have some kind of newsletter that kind of like some kind of like bullet view of what's happened. So that's one alternative if you don't have the privilege of having a real license. But I also want to like we actually get a lot of information just from working at a security company. So basically, I mean, not everyone here that's listening to this is going to know what TrueSec does, like, and all the different parts of TrueSec. But uh, we have an incident team that regularly does like incident response, where we have a lot of information trade-offs with them, where we get regular presentations about a certain incident and what's happened, what kind of techniques are used. And that's, I would actually classify that as even more valuable than um, having some kind of blog that you tune into every now and then. because having that kind of information at your fingertips is actually it's real life information in a more hardcore sense even, because we've actually seen this, we've handled this ourselves. And also our like threat intelligence work that we're doing also feeds us with a lot of the kind of information that you would get from a threat blog. So I would say like a lot of the information that I get nowadays is actually like generated by us, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool actually. Yeah, I agree with all this. I also use Twitter a lot. 'Cause if you have a good if you're following a bunch of good Twitter people, and I don't mean the biggest one or the most famous ones, but a bunch of good ones, then you can really like get news of what's going on, what's exciting, what sort of exciting stuff are happening right now, and then if something trends, then everyone is going to mention it. And you're like, whoa, all right, so seven different accounts has now mentioned this CV or something. It must have came out last night or something, because I need to look at it right now because this seems to be big. And then you're like, whoa, all right, if everyone's talking about this, it's probably big. But we have some people in chat who also work, I think, as a SOC analyst in other countries, like Ricky B and Darudi and possibly some others. Like, let's see if they have any other way of staying up to date, or like tips or ideas for podcasts or Twitter accounts and stuff. So we'll see.
Darknet Diaries is fantastic.
Yes,
If you haven't listened to that,
so good.
Yeah,
everyone in the SOC loves it.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not really like where you would go to get like up to date information about exploits and stuff like that, but it's such a good lesson. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, Darknet Diaries. I love that as well. As you say, I think it's more for staying passionate about security rather than staying up to date, because
for sure,
there's some good stuff in there.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for you guys? Do you have any end goal, any sort of dream role or dream job that you sort of would love to have sometime in the future?
Well, I would like to become a pen tester, in particularly somebody who focuses on physical penetration testing. So, like, I want to be the person who gets paid to break into a bank because the bank wants to see if their security is enough. So I guess that's kind of my end goal, but I plan on staying in the SOC for at least a couple of years in order to actually learn, because you learn so much in the SOC, especially like, because I mean, you hear all the time about what threat actors are doing wrong. Like, if you want example, and just listen to the previous episode, like,
Yeah, 2.5 hours of shit talk.
yeah, exactly. But you see so much and you learn, like, okay, so if I were gonna attack this customer, what shouldn't I have done in order to get in? So I think it's really valuable for people who wants to become like pen testers and stuff like that. Start in a SOC, start on the blue team. You will learn how to become a good red teamer. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that goes both ways. I mean, the better you can attack something, the better you can defend it, and vice versa. I think so.
Yeah.
I think it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
I think we have another suggestion for you, Ulrika, in chat. It says to come and work for Fujitsu. This Cruiser company sounds weird. I think he wants you to work at Fujitsu with him.
Aw, cute.
Or maybe he should come work with us, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because
Come join us.
you don't
We need
steal
more
Ulrika without punishment, Takeo, just so you know. It's gonna get
Come to the
physical.
dark side. We have cookies.
Exactly. And but yeah, red teaming is super cool. And especially like the social engineering and the physical part. There is I've been trying to gather my few brain cells to come up with the account that there is a woman online on Twitter who actually is amazing in social engineering and in red teaming, and I can't remember the name of the account. I want to say Jekyll Hyde something.
Yeah, Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's if you're not following that one, do it. And I think it's a great one. I'm 90% sure. Yeah.
I think
I'm
like
sorry.
Project Iris, they did an episode with her before. Just
Oh, I missed that. I think
yeah.
I gotta go back and listen to that.
Yeah, go for it.
I remember the Darknet Diaries episode when he there was a social engineer pen tester who was he got a job to infiltrate a bank, I think, in some country, and then he went into the wrong bank, which was
It's
hilarious, obviously. Uh, but just imagine the amount of like confidence you would have to pull something like that off.
mm,
I mean, I feel like I'm a fairly confident guy, but that's too much. I mean, just putting on just one of those work vests and pretending that you're some like you're gonna look at something in there. I mean, no, I couldn't imagine doing
I probably could.
that.
That would be so much fun. Just to mess with
Would you?
people and get paid for it. That's
Uh,
awesome.
but then you come across this like this one employee who's actually like really like a good employee who's standing there like asking you follow-up questions and asking to see your credentials and stuff. That's when it starts to get sweaty, right?
Or fun.
No, but you have this picture in your mind that you're just gonna scroll past everything, but obviously that's not gonna happen in every case.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I read about or heard or read, I'm not sure, about some red teamer who went into a company and then and started working at some computer, and then one of the like network guys or security guys actually came up to him and like, hey, what you doing with this computer? Like, are you supposed to work with this? And then he had actually prepared a fake email from the some CISO or something, but it was
Mm.
fake. He's like, yeah, oh, look at this. Here's the email, and he had it on his iPad, and like, hey, here we go. And then that guy actually escorted him around the company and just showed him all the valuable assets and stuff. And like, yeah, well, and here's the server room, and here's this, and here's this. So he actually got escorted around the company via
Yeah,
his fake email.
Wow.
That's pretty
it
funny.
would work at most companies. I mean, let's not
Yeah.
kid ourselves.
Yeah, it would. I like that. But what about you then, Samuel? Is TAM your end goal? Or do you take over
I
the
wouldn't
world?
say it's my end goal, but I think having some kind of role where I have a technical role, but I'm also with some kind of customer or some kind of customer facing role. This like hybrid role fits me pretty well because I really enjoy the technical stuff, but I'm also I'm a pretty social guy, and uh, I think I'm pretty good at like talking to people and I mean, it's pretty weird to say you're good at being in meetings because Jesus Christ, what a thing to be proud of. But yeah, I think at least the hybrid role fits me pretty well. Aside from that, I'm not really very. I don't really have a plan, like a 10-year plan or something of what I'm going to do because I'm still pretty fresh into the industry myself. So I kind of just want to try different stuff and see what sticks, you know. I think that's the way to go until you find something that you find is like super perfect.
Yeah, sounds good. I my sort of dream job and goal it's changed with time. I mean, going back like 15 years, it was something, and then it changed after a couple of years, and then it changed again, it changed again, and changed again. So it's not a static thing. I think it's more of it changes as you go, and you're like, I want
Yeah,
to do this super technical stuff, and then you do it for a couple of years, and like, no, that's way too boring. I want to do like the other thing, and then you do that for a while, and then eventually you'll find something that you're really passionate about. I think, and then you're like, yeah,
yeah,
this is it.
Mm.
This is it. I'm home now. So something in this line of work.
yeah, for sure.
But that's a skill. That's like you said about being able to talk to customers and being able to being a technical person. You, I mean, you get to talk to everything from a CEO, a CTO, or a security guy or help desk person, and you need to explain it in a way like you have the same information in your head. You just need to translate it in a way so
Yeah,
it's understandable for that person.
and it's harder than you would think.
It
Like
is.
uh, sitting in a meeting and just understanding who you're talking to and on what level to place yourself, so to speak,
Mm.
and to put yourself on their same level and trying to understand what they expect from you and the kind of language you're supposed to use. Um, it's really hard. A lot of people do it okay. I think I do it okay, but it's a real skill to do it well. Um, and it takes a lot of practice, and I'm really not there yet, but I think I'm on my way at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think you are. I know you are. And I think that's I love that part as well. I'm probably not gonna ever be in a customer facing role like entirely, but I love speaking technically to non-technical people,
Yeah.
like in a way so they understand. Because if you speak tech to a CEO, it's not gonna understand, and if you speak non-tech to a tech guy, it's gonna be just crap. So you need to
Yeah.
place yourself at the correct level, just as you said.
Yeah. And then suddenly you're in a meeting where there's both kind of people, and then you're really fucked.
Yeah, yeah, and that happens, and then you're like, okay, so who is actually the receiver of this information? And then you,
Yeah.
but it's hard. It is hard, but it's fun.
Yeah. For sure.
Um, I was gonna go to the segment in the show that's called overrated, underrated.
Mhm.
I hope you've heard about this. It's if some viewer or listener hasn't heard about this, so I will throw out some topics or words or something ideas, and then you two decide if you think that it's overrated or underrated. And it's not what anyone should think or what your company thinks. It's like it's you, and yeah, and that's it. So first one is might be quite obvious. Let's start with the current level one, Ulrika.
Mhm.
Uh, alert fatigue. Is that overrated or underrated?
It's so underrated.
Why?
Um, because like especially when you work like the day shifts and there's so much going on and you kind of assume that everything's fine. Uh, but it's like the meme where when there's a dog sitting in like a burning room and you're like, it's cool, it's fine, everything's on fire, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of the image I have in my head. And I'm like, whenever I work the day shift, I really need to remind myself that you need to stay alert. You need to actually look at things and not just look at it for like 3 seconds and then like, no, it's fine. I need to move on. Um, so yeah, it's a real thing. I've, to my knowledge at least, I haven't like resolved something that's actually like bad or like ransomware, but like sometimes you really need to like stop yourself and actually look at something for just a couple of seconds longer, even if you know that it's fine, just to like keep yourself accountable. Uh, but yeah, it's like it shouldn't be taken lightly.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Is it underrated for you as well, Samuel?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with everything Ulrika said. It's
It's a real thing then.
you just become blind after a while if
Yeah.
there's too much. It's a real thing for sure.
Yeah. I actually I don't think a lot of people or even managers and like understand that because I think it's
Mm,
hard if you haven't done it. I haven't done it in this in the same way you do it.
mm.
But yeah, I absolutely agree. Right, Samuel, then your turn. So higher education, as in a university or college, is that overrated or
Oh wow,
underrated?
I'd say overrated. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's of course valuable, but um, doing like a shorter education. I mean, the education I did is would be classified as a higher education, obviously, but it's more trade oriented. And I think doing if you kind of know what you want to do, trying to find an education that's shorter but more in line with what's actually happening in the industry right now, and that's more trade oriented. It's oftentimes the best way to go. And I think a lot of the people who go to real higher education, like universities, a lot of the teachers are. I mean, I've gone to university myself. A lot of the teachers haven't actually worked in the industry for a lot of years. A lot of the lectures are boring and uh, not very relevant, and you could have just as easily skipped them. And I think a lot of the university educations, you could achieve the same level of knowledge in half the time if someone just guided you to the right resources of learning.
Nice. Ulrika, then What about
I
you?
completely agree.
It's overrated for
Uh,
you as well.
yeah, I actually studied 1.5 years on university, and like I started studying to become a translator in French, but I absolutely hated it. I hated like I hated the school, I hated the teachers. Uh, like my classmates were okay, but so many of them were only there for like kind of like the stamp that I've gone to university. They didn't actually want to learn, they just wanted to be in university because it's like a thing. And then I started vocational school, um, and like to become a software tester. And I loved it because it was actually geared towards what like the skill you needed to have, instead of, well, you should know this because reasons. Um, but I think if you have if you have the motivation, if you have the passion, you don't need higher education. It can help you, like in some ways. And I mean, some of the things that I learned at university are things that I'm gonna take with me for my whole life. But if you like, it's more important to be passionate about something than to have like that diploma that said that you graduated that thing or from that university or from that school, like just for the like prestige. um, it's much more important to be passionate about something, um, than to just have a diploma.
Yeah. I haven't done any form of higher education, so it's always interesting to hear other people's takes on that. So yeah, 'cause yeah, I've not been there, not done that, so I can't really, I don't have any opinion. So it's always interesting to hear
You didn't
others.
miss anything.
You
Perfect.
didn't, really, you didn't.
I think that what sort of is um, the most best skill that you sort of would gain from that is critical thinking,
Mm.
writing essays and stuff, and I suppose also networking with people who might work in the same industry as you do eventually, and then you have a way in to just network with other people, I
Yeah.
suppose.
And there's also a lot of academical education that you definitely have to go to university for. So
Yeah,
obviously that has a purpose as well. Um, I mean, we're generalizing, we're painting pretty broad strokes here, but
Yeah.
hopefully most of the listeners understand that.
yeah. I mean, I have a hard time thinking that you're gonna apply to become a surgeon of some sort, and you're like, yeah, I watched it on
Yeah,
YouTube. I read it on.
Yeah.
I listen to a 5 minute podcast every morning, and then
yeah,
I took a master class, so that's
Yeah.
it.
yeah,
So some things needs a higher education.
of
Yeah.
course.
But yeah,
And I mean,
yeah.
yeah. And I mean, if you really want to go to university, then go. Like, it's
The
different for
parties
everyone.
are great.
I never went to a party.
Uh,
I'm
you
not a
missed out
party
the
person.
only reason to go there. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, you need to
Uh,
redo it.
yeah,
Three
need
years.
to go back.
Right.
Only for the parties,
Total
nothing else. Just
solely
just
for
for
the
the party.
parties. That's a long party. A 3 year
Yeah.
3 year run.
A lot of parties.
All right, we got two topics left. Let's do um, Samuel, because you're doing this at the moment. So working from home, remote working.
Okay.
Is that overrated or
Underrated, I
underrated?
would say. I would say underrated. Mostly on the basis that a lot of workplaces haven't really implemented it. So I think you get a lot of stuff done when you're in an environment where there's um, no elements of distraction in the way that there are oftentimes, for example, working in a SOC. If you're working in a SOC, there's like a lot of different people just walking around and talking. And if I'm going to do like 4 meetings in a row, I'd rather do it from home so I don't have to like find a room to sit in where I can seclude myself. Um, Not having to commute is fantastic. Um, I think there's a lot of plus sides with working from home. So the sides is obviously not so socializing with your colleagues is a big negative, and also of course it's easy to get if you don't have um, the focus to actually work, it's easy to get distracted with other stuff. So if you can overcome those two last parts, I think working from home is fantastic.
despite not getting to meet me on a daily basis.
Yeah, but I didn't do that anyway because you were never at the office when I was in the office.
True, true. Yeah, you have a point.
Don't hit me with that. No,
Samuel,
but but
Samuel,
but
Good
I'll
save.
teach you a thing. Yeah, if you if you bribe him with cookies, he will be there.
yeah, but
I've
I
done it a
Yeah,
couple of times, and
yeah,
it always works.
true. That's
it
true.
does. It does actually.
Gotta buy some cookies, I guess.
I'm a
Yeah.
Yeah.
sucker for sweets and
No, but I
all
think
of
like
that.
the optimal thing is probably to like work 3 days from home and then like do 2 days at the office. I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of a good compromise probably. Or just do like half days at home and half days at the office or something.
True. Ulrika, then, what's your take on working from home?
I mean, I don't do it like that much right now. We have like 1 week where we have X, it's called, so we can like study whatever we want per week. Um, and I normally do that from home, but I normally get distracted um, unless I have like a really clear schedule that I need to get this done for today. Um, but it's also really nice to not have people around you all the time because then I mean, it can be very distracting sometimes when you're in the office and you really want to focus on on an alert and there are just people talking everywhere and you just sit there and like I can't focus, my head is hurting and I just want to go home. uh,
Yeah.
so I would like to be able to work from home some days, um, but I mean I like working in an office. I think it's really nice um, because like it feels more clear what you need to get done each day. And I also feel more motivated when when I can just talk to my colleagues instead of like trying to call them on Teams or like try to message them or something. Um, so I'm torn.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's a
Just
good
say,
option.
just say overrated. It's fine. I'm not gonna get mad.
I
No,
might.
like I don't think it's overrated and I don't think it's underrated. I think it's a good option if it's for you, but if it's not for you, then it's overrated. Like it the
Diplomatic answer. Yeah.
trying.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always said it's underrated, and now after COVID, I'm more to the overrated side of it. Um, it's more because I don't get to choose. It's like I can't go to work. Well, I can be at work some days, but generally I'm supposed to stay at home. And if I don't get to make that choice, then I don't like it. It's really immature, I know. I'm like, no, I wanna decide. Well, you have to be at the office. I want to work from home. All right, but you have to work from home. No, that's not okay either. So yeah, it's in my immature side. I want to decide what I'm gonna do.
5-year-old coming out.
Yeah, true. It's I can just admit it and embrace it. It's like that's the way it is. Uh, but yeah, I miss this. I miss socializing with people, and then 'cause if you ping someone on Teams, it's getting better. I think more like
Mm,
the more we go along. But if you go back a couple of months or even a year, like it was more official if you message someone on Teams. Like you wanted something.
mm,
Like if you message someone on Teams or whatever Slack perhaps, like you want something from them.
mm.
While at work, you can be like, hey, what's up? And you don't want anything from them. You just want to know what's up. Uh, I'm uh, I'm trying to just message people just randomly, be like, hey, what's going on? But it's not the same thing. It's difficult. So
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
I say it's
Mm.
overrated. Um, last topic, which Ulrika sort of stole from me, so I'm not gonna start with you. So, Samuel, overrated or underrated? Passion.
Passion. Okay, that's a hard one.
I know. I never said these ones are easy.
So I'm gonna say overrated, but I'm gonna motivate it because honestly, I'm really, if I have to say something, I would say overrated. But um, so passion is great. Um, being passionate about something is probably one of the best motivators in the world. But having good work ethic can achieve probably the same result as being passionate about something. And the reason I'm going with overrated here is because being passionate about something is it's kind of a trend word right now. So a lot of employers are they're like explicitly looking for people who are passionate about their work, which creates this situation where you have to sit there in like interviews and go, yeah, I'm really passionate about this, I'm really passionate about that, and kind of like give this view that you're like filled with the need to do this. And if you are, that's fantastic. But I think it's a very unhealthy way to approach work, at least when it comes to expecting all the employers to be passionate about what they're doing. And this is something that's been a problem for several years. I think if you go to work and you put in your hours and you make sure that the work you're doing is good and you care about the work you're doing, that's perfectly fine. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, that's even greater. But it's not something that should be expected of people.
Yeah, and it's true. It's really a thing. And I mean, I can't speak for other like areas of business, but for us in security, I mean, you're supposed to be passionate. If you're in an interview and they tell you like, hey, so are you passionate about security? Like, what do you do outside of this? I'm like, nope, nothing. Like, at 5 o'clock, I go home. I don't think about security at all. Like, I don't care. It's a day job for me. Like, honestly, you're not gonna get the job.
No.
So yeah, that's the way it is.
And it's a problem because you're only creating a situation where people are gonna lie, and you're not gonna know. So it's pointless.
It's the very same thing that when you apply for a job and then you get to interview and then they say, "Oi, can I get 2 like references from you?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna give you the 2 guys that I know love me."
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you, like, I have 8 people who
My
just
mom
hates
and
my
my
guts.
dad.
Yeah, exactly. But if you've been in, like, if you had 5 previous jobs and like 4 of those hated you, I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna give you references to those jobs. I'm gonna give it to the one that liked me. I'm gonna give you my manager and a colleague, and like that's it, because I know they like me. That's why I'm giving you the references. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, tangent, but yeah. Speaking of job interviews, that's a pet peeve I have. References. Ulrika, then, what's passion for you? Is that overrated or underrated?
I think I would like give the same answer as Samuel because it was a very good answer and I haven't even thought about it that way before. But yeah, like I mean, it's important that you're passionate about what you do. Because I mean, it's important that you like what you do. Because if you hate your job, then you shouldn't be doing that job. You should be doing something that you like. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of more important that you are like kind, that you are a good colleague, that you have good like work ethics, that you have a good like work morale and stuff like that, instead of just being passionate, but you're always late, like your colleagues hate you, and just like all of that. So I mean, passion is important, but it's not the most important when it comes to work. Um,
True. These topics for this segment are very vague, intentionally, because I want to see where your mind goes for specific words. So when I wrote passion down for this one, my take on this was, I think it's underrated, and the way I thought about it was, I think that way too many people are passionate about things they don't work with, or they work with things they're not passionate about.
yeah.
I would take a guess and say that if you would ask like everyone in the world what do you work with, and then you say, so is this what you really want to work with, or do you have some other passion that you could make an equal amount of salary of, or maybe even less, but be happy and passionate about what you do, like would you do it? Like, yes. And why don't you? I've worked here for like 15 years. I don't want to quit this. This is what I've done. I know this. Like, why don't you chase your passion? And people are like, no, I'm safe here. I know what I have, and I'm safe here. So
Mm.
I
Well,
think more people should do that.
the thing with that is that I don't think most people have a passion that they can monetize. I think most people simply do not have a passion that they can monetize. If you do, that's fantastic, but most people don't, I think.
Yeah. No, that's probably right. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but if you have passion, if you just want to switch careers or do something else, just do it. It's worth it.
Of course, yeah.
Even if it's less pay than you currently have, I mean, it's better to make a little bit less money but be happy at work than just being miserable and stuff and just be annoying to
For
everyone
sure.
else.
That I agree with. Yeah.
Cool. I think we sort of reached the segment is usually the end of this. Is there anything else that I've missed to bring up or that you
I don't think so.
want to ask each other of? No, you
Yeah.
talk on a daily basis, so you know each other.
I mean, we hashed that out. Yeah.
Yeah. You had a fight, it got
No.
physical, and then that's it.
Exactly.
I've unfriended you on Facebook. That's the most evil thing you can do in current times. Right, guys. Thanks so much for joining me. It was awesome. It's been almost 2 hours long, and it feels like just 30 minutes or something.
Thanks for having us. It was
Yeah,
really
exactly.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
I'm gonna get you on again at some later date.
fun. For sure.
Right, and thanks to everyone in chat. Good talking to you. Good chat today. Right, we'll see you next week. Right. Bye, Tracello. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Inside security.